The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as Peter Walsh stepped up to the speaking platform. The room was filled with representatives from over 200 alien species. Many looked down at the human with pity. Some showed disgust. A few seemed curious about what the Earth diplomat might say. Peter took a deep breath. At 45 years old, with gray starting to show in his brown hair, he had spent 12 years representing humanity in this chamber. 12 years of begging, pleading, and accepting scraps. Today would be different. Distinguished members of the council, Peter began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. For 20 years, humanity has honored all agreements with the Kraxan hegemony. We have given our resources. We have given our labor. We have given our dignity. The 7-foot-tall Kraxan representative, Overlord Zexkar, shifted in his seat. His scaled skin glistened under the chamber lights as he made a dismissive gesture with one of his 4 arms. Yet yesterday, Peter continued, a human colony on Europa was destroyed by Kraxan warships. 5,000 people died. The official explanation was mining safety concerns. The truth is that those colonists refused to work in unsafe conditions. Murmurs spread through the hall. The Kraxan were powerful, and few dared to speak against them openly. I have been instructed by Earth's united government to inform this council that effective immediately, all agreements with the Kraxan hegemony are terminated. Gasps echoed around the chamber. The Kraxan representative rose to his full height, towering over his guards. You risk extinction, human, Zexkar hissed. Your species has no defense against our fleet. This is not wise. Peter looked directly at the Kraxan. Perhaps, but we would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. We're fighting back. The chamber erupted in chaos. The Vonari delegates, with their translucent bodies, huddled together in visible distress. The insectoid Prak representatives clicked their mandibles rapidly, and what humans had learned was laughter. The ancient Mercian ambassador simply watched with 6 unblinking eyes. Order. Order in the council. The chairperson, a wispy being from the gas giant world of Peltraxes, waved its glowing appendages for silence. Zexkar pushed past his guards. This is madness. Humans have no weapons that can harm our ships. Their technology is primitive. Their numbers are small. Perhaps, Peter replied calmly. But we have something you lack, Overlord. We have nothing left to lose. The chairperson floated forward. Ambassador Walsh, the Council urges Earth to reconsider. The last species that defied the Kraxan, the Balerians, no longer exists. Their home planet is now a mining colony. Peter nodded. We are aware of the risks, Chairperson. Our decision is final. As Peter stepped down from the platform, many delegates moved away from him, as if defeat might be contagious. But a few, the Tellurian representative with her crystal-like skin, the small but fierce Troca delegate, and surprisingly, the Mercian ambassador, gave subtle gestures that in their cultures signified respect. Back in the small room assigned to Earth's delegation, Peter collapsed into a chair. His assistant, Frank Nichols, handed him a glass of water. It's done, Peter said. Are we really ready for this, Frank? Frank looked at the secure tablet in his hand. Operation Prometheus is at 90% readiness. Colonel Harris confirms that resistance cells are activated globally. Dr. Carpenter reports final tests are successful. Peter closed his eyes briefly. So many will die before this is over. Many are already dying slowly under Kraxan rule, Frank reminded him. At least now we have a chance. Peter's secure communicator beeped. It was a direct message from Earth's president. Kraxan ships on the move. Heading for Earth. Estimated arrival. 36 hours. Peter showed the message to Frank. They shared a grim look. It begins, Peter said quietly. May God help us all. 20 years earlier, Lisa Carpenter stood on the roof of the Nevada Research Facility, watching the night sky. She was 32, with short blonde hair and tired eyes that had seen too many late nights in the lab, her gaze fixed on the strange lights that had appeared 3 days ago. "They're still there," said Kevin Grant as he joined her. He was a tall man with dark skin and a serious face. He handed Lisa a cup of coffee. "They're watching us," Lisa said, deciding what to do with us. The strange ships had arrived without warning. They settled into orbit around Earth and sent no messages for 2 full days. Then they announced themselves as the Kraxan hegemony, rulers of 57 star systems. "President speaking in 5 minutes," said Maria Delgado, appearing at the door. She was shorter than Lisa, with long black hair tied back. "They want all staff to watch." In the crowded break room, scientists and security personnel gathered around the television. The president looked tired and scared as he addressed the nation. "After meeting with Kraxan representatives, we have agreed to their terms for peaceful engagement with Earth. They have technologies far beyond our own. Their weapons could destroy our cities in minutes. They have offered to share some advances with us in exchange for mining rights and labor agreements." Lisa felt her stomach sink as the president continued explaining how humanity would benefit from this partnership. She had worked for the government long enough to understand what was really happening. "They're making us their slaves," she whispered to Kevin. The next morning, Lisa was called to the director's office. Gordon Phillips was a heavy man with a red face and thinning hair. He looked unhappy. "The project is being shut down," he said without greeting her. "Orders from above. The Kraxans say our quantum research is too dangerous." Lisa couldn't believe it. Her team was close to a breakthrough in energy production. "We can't just stop. This could solve Earth's energy crisis." "It's not our choice anymore," Phillips said, looking out the window. "Half the staff is being reassigned. The rest are being let go." Lisa left the office in a daze. In the hallway, she found Kevin and Maria waiting. "You heard?" Kevin asked. Lisa nodded. "They're afraid of what we might discover." Maria looked around to make sure no one was listening. "My cousin works at Los Alamos. Same thing there. Any research that might lead to weapons or advanced energy systems is being shut down." That night, the 3 scientists met at Lisa's small house in the desert. They sat in her kitchen with the lights down low. "I'm not giving up," Lisa said firmly. "The Kraxan wouldn't stop our research unless they were afraid of what we might find." Kevin nodded slowly. "You want to continue in secret?" "Yes. We know enough people. Former military, scientists, engineers, people who won't accept this surrender." Maria looked worried. "It would be dangerous if the Kraxan found out. More dangerous than letting aliens control our planet." Lisa asked, "I've been studying the quantum anomaly for years. Something about it scares them. That means we're onto something important." Kevin was silent for a long moment. "I have a friend with land in Colorado. Remote area, old mining tunnels. We could set up there. I can get equipment," Maria added. "Not everything at once, but piece by piece." Lisa walked to the window and looked up at the stars, knowing that Kraxan ships were up there. "It might take years. We'll need help, funding, protection." "We'll find a way," Kevin said. "Not everyone will accept this new world order." 6 months later, deep in a converted mining tunnel, Lisa stared at her computer screen. The quantum simulation showed promise. Behind her, 20 people worked at various stations. Scientists who had refused to give up, engineers who saw through the Kraxan lies, former soldiers who wanted to protect their world. "It's working," she said softly as the numbers aligned. "The quantum shield disruption is working." Maria looked over her shoulder. "How long until we have something real?" Lisa thought about the Kraxan ships in orbit, the mining operations starting in Africa and South America, the labor programs taking people off-world. 5 years, maybe 10. But we'll get there. She touched the screen gently. "And when we do, Earth will have a chance to fight back." Colonel Daniel Harris moved silently through the abandoned subway tunnel beneath Old Chicago. At 51, his hair was fully gray, but his body remained strong. Behind him walked 12 men and women, each carrying weapons hidden under long coats. "Security checkpoint ahead," whispered Allison, a former police officer who now served as his scout. 4 guards, 2 Kraxen. Daniel nodded. Standard approach. Quick and quiet. 2 minutes later, the human guards were tied up but unhurt. The 2 Kraxen lay dead, blue blood pooling on the concrete floor. 15 minutes until the next patrol, Daniel said, checking his watch. Move the bodies, grab their comm units. This was the Resistance's 10th successful operation this month. Small victories, but they added up. In a large chamber that once served as a maintenance area, 50 people waited. Some cleaned weapons, others sorted medical supplies. A few gathered around maps spread on old tables. The Johannesburg situation is worse, said Eli, their communications expert. He was young, barely 25, with quick eyes and faster fingers on any keyboard. Kraxen killed 37 miners who refused to enter an unstable shaft. Daniel clenched his jaw. Survivors. Most were arrested. They're being held at the processing center. Eli pointed to a location on the map. That's heavily guarded, Daniel said, studying the layout. But not impossible. 3 days later, Daniel led a team of 20 resistance fighters to the outskirts of the South African mining complex. They wore stolen Kraxen worker uniforms and carried IDs that Eli had forged. Transport approaching, said Allison through their secure comms. Right on schedule. The large hover truck slowed as it approached the gate. Daniel and his team moved quickly, disabling the human drivers and taking their places. The Kraxen guards at the gate barely looked at their IDs before waving them through. Inside the processing center, they found hundreds of humans in cells. The resistance fighters moved efficiently, unlocking doors and leading people to the waiting transport. We can only take 50, Daniel told his team. Priority to those with technical skills and those most at risk of execution. A thin man with bruises on his face approached Daniel. I heard you talking. You need people with technical skills. I'm Jake Sullivan. I designed cooling systems for their ships before I refused to work for them anymore. Daniel studied him. What happened to you? They killed my wife and daughter when the protests started. Said they were making an example. Jake's eyes were hard. I want to make them pay. Can you help us understand Kraxen ships? Their weaknesses? Jake nodded. Their shield generators have flaws. I can show you. On the journey back to Chicago, Jake explained Kraxen technology to Daniel. Their ships rely on overlapping energy fields. Each field has different resonance frequencies. If you could disrupt those frequencies in sequence, we might have something that can help with that, Daniel said. He rarely mentioned Lisa's team to new recruits, but he sensed Jake was different. 2 weeks later, Daniel took Jake to Colorado. The entrance to Lisa's facility was hidden in an old mining shaft, protected by security systems that would impress even the Kraxen. Welcome to Providence, Daniel said as they passed the final checkpoint. Underground, the facility stretched through multiple large caverns. Hundreds of people worked at equipment that looked nothing like standard Earth technology. Lisa Carpenter met them in what served as her office. At 52, she looked older than her years, the price of 2 decades of secret work. So you're the ship designer, she said, studying Jake. And you're the famous Dr. Carpenter, Jake replied. I heard rumors about a secret project, but never believed it was real. Lisa gestured to a large device in the center of the main cavern. This is our prototype. It creates a quantum field that can disrupt Kraxen shields, but only at short range so far. Jake walked around the device, examining it with expert eyes. If we could mount this on a drone or small ship. That's why you're here, Lisa said. We need delivery systems. Daniel watched them talk, hope rising in his chest. For 20 years, the Resistance had focused on survival and small victories. With Lisa's weapon and Jake's knowledge, they might finally strike a real blow against the Kraxen. How soon can we test it? Daniel asked. Lisa and Jake exchanged looks. 1 month, Lisa said. Maybe less with Jake's help. Good, Daniel said, because I have the perfect target. A Kraxen mining facility on the moon. Minimal staff, isolated, but important to their operations. Jake smiled for the first time since Daniel had met him. The beginning of the end for them. Lisa nodded. The beginning of humanity fighting back. The small ship approached the dark side of the moon, its engines silent, its hull painted black to avoid detection. Inside, Daniel checked his oxygen levels one last time. Beside him, 5 resistance fighters did the same. They all wore modified spacesuits with extra armor. 3 minutes to landing zone, said Allison from the pilot's seat. Her hands were steady on the controls. No sign they've spotted us. Jake's voice came through their comms. Remember, once you plant the device, you have 8 minutes to clear the area. No more. The ship touched down 2 miles from the Kraxen mining facility. From orbit, the facility looked like a spider with a central hub and 8 extending arms where machines dug deep into the moon's surface. Move out, Daniel ordered. They crossed the lunar surface quickly, using small jets on their suits to leap across the gray dust. The facility grew larger as they approached. Its lights cut through the darkness. Guards at the main entrance, Daniel said quietly. 2 Kraxen, 3 human. As expected, replied Ben. The team's explosives expert. Side entrance should be clear. They circled around, staying in the shadows. The side entrance was used for maintenance and had only 1 guard, a human who looked bored and tired. Allison approached alone, wearing a suit that looked like standard Kraxen worker gear. The guard barely glanced at her fake ID before opening the door. His eyes widened when he saw Daniel's team, but Ben knocked him unconscious before he could raise the alarm. 16 minutes until shift change, Daniel reminded them as they dragged the guard inside. Let's move. The corridors were quiet. Most workers were in the mining tunnels or the processing center. Daniel's team moved quickly, following the map Jake had prepared. The central power core glowed with blue energy. No guards were inside. The Kraxen never expected anyone to attack them here. Set up the device, Daniel told Ben. Then removed Lisa's quantum disruptor from his pack. The device was the size of a small suitcase and hummed softly as he activated it. 8-minute timer set, Ben said. Starting now. Just as they turned to leave, alarms began to blare. We've been spotted, Allison said, checking the security feeds on her tablet. Guards coming from the north tunnel. Alternative exit, Daniel ordered, leading them down the east corridor. They encountered 3 Kraxen guards. Daniel fired his weapon, a modified rifle loaded with bullets containing tiny quantum disruptors. The shots punched through the Kraxen armor that usually repelled normal bullets. 5 minutes to detonation, Ben warned as they reached an emergency airlock. Outside, they ran across the lunar surface toward their ship. Behind them, Kraxen guards poured from the facility. They're gaining on us, Allison said, her breathing heavy in their comms. Daniel looked back. Keep moving. We're almost there. They reached the ship with 2 minutes to spare. As they lifted off, Daniel watched the facility through a viewport. A blue light pulsed from the center, growing brighter. Brace for impact, he warned. The explosion wasn't like anything on Earth. In the vacuum of space, there was no sound, no fireball. Instead, a wave of blue energy expanded from the facility, causing the structure to collapse in on itself. The mining arms broke apart and fell to the surface. It worked, Ben said in awe. It actually worked. On the flight back to Earth, Daniel contacted Lisa's facility. Providence, this is Moonshot. Mission accomplished. Lisa's voice came through, tired but happy. Confirmed, Moonshot. Return home. They were halfway to Earth when Jake's voice cut in, all excitement gone. Daniel, we have a problem. The Kraxen just destroyed New Seattle. The entire city is gone. Daniel closed his eyes as the news hit him. New Seattle had a population of over 300,000 people. They're saying it's punishment for the moon attack, Jake continued. They've declared all resistance members terrorists. Did they know it was us? Daniel asked. No, but they know humans were behind it. They're demanding that Earth's governments hand over anyone involved. When their ship landed at the hidden base in the Rocky Mountains, Ambassador Peter Walsh was waiting. His face was grim. "We've received reports from all over," he said as Daniel approached. "The Kraxan are rounding up people in major cities. They're making examples." Daniel's hands clenched into fists. "We knew there would be consequences." "Yes," Peter agreed. "But now more people will join us. The Kraxan just showed everyone their true nature." Lisa appeared from inside the base. "The next generation disruptor will be ready in 3 months. This time, we'll target their ships." Daniel nodded slowly. "The war has begun." Daniel knew something was wrong the moment he entered the base. Usually, the underground facility hummed with activity. Today, it was too quiet. Guards stood at alert, fingers near triggers. "What's happening?" he asked the security chief. "Meeting in the war room," the man replied. Ambassador Walsh called it. Priority 1. In the war room, Peter Walsh stood beside a large screen showing security footage. Lisa sat at the table, her face pale. Jake paced near the back wall. "We have a traitor," Peter said as Daniel entered. "Eric Winters, Deputy Security Minister for the North American Zone." The screen showed a man in an expensive suit entering a Kraxan facility. The timestamp was from yesterday. "How bad?" Daniel asked. "Bad," Lisa said. "He knows about Providence, about our weapon development. He's trying to save himself by giving them everything." Daniel felt cold anger. "How much time do we have?" "Hours, maybe less," Peter said. "We need to evacuate all key personnel and equipment." Lisa stood up. "My team is already packing the essential research. The prototypes are being moved to backup Site 3. "What about our people in the cities?" Daniel asked. "The resistance cells." "We're sending warnings," Jake said. "But many won't get out in time." Daniel thought of the hundreds of people who had risked everything to join them. "We need to help them." "There's no time," Peter argued. "We need to save what we can." Daniel shook his head. "I'm taking a team to Chicago. The cell there has 40 members, including 5 scientists who worked with Lisa." "I'll go to Boston," Jake volunteered. "My old engineering team is there." Peter looked like he wanted to argue, but instead nodded. "Be at backup Site 3 in 24 hours, not a minute later." 6 hours later, Daniel led his team through the streets of Chicago. The city was under curfew, but they had fake passes that identified them as workers returning from late shifts. They were 3 blocks from the Resistance safe house when they saw the Kraxan ships, 5 of them hovering over the building. "We're too late," Allison whispered. Daniel watched as humans in Kraxan security uniforms led people from the building in handcuffs. He recognized faces he had worked with for years. "We can't help them," Ben said quietly. "Not against that many." Daniel knew Ben was right, but it felt like failure. "Let's get to the secondary meeting point. Some might have escaped." At an abandoned gas station 5 miles away, they found 3 members of the Chicago cell hiding in the back room. One was Dr. Lynn Weber, a physicist who had been working on SHIELD technology. "They came with no warning," Lynn said, her hands shaking. "Someone gave them our exact location." "Winters," Daniel said grimly. "He sold us out." They gathered what supplies they could and headed west in a battered truck. Reports came in over their secure channel, raids in 12 cities, hundreds arrested, many killed resisting. When they reached the mountains, Daniel was relieved to see Jake's vehicle already there, but Jake's face told him the news wasn't good. "Boston was a trap," Jake said. "I only got 7 out. The rest." He didn't finish. Inside the new base, smaller than Providence but better hidden, Peter was coordinating what remained of their network. "We've lost nearly half our people," he told Daniel. "But Lisa saved most of the research and prototypes." Lisa appeared from a side room, looking exhausted. "We can rebuild. The important thing is that the Kraxans still don't know exactly how our technology works." Winters knew locations, names, but not the science. "We need to strike back," Daniel said. "Show our people we're not defeated." Peter looked skeptical. "With what? We're scattered, outnumbered." "With this," said Maria, entering the room. She carried a small device the size of her palm. It's a miniaturized version of the quantum disruptor. It can be attached to a bullet or small drone. Daniel picked it up, surprised by its light weight. "How effective is it?" "Enough to disable a Kraxan shield generator or small ship," Maria said. "We've made 50 of them." Daniel looked at Peter. 50 chances to show the Kraxan and the world that we're still fighting." Peter was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Pick your targets carefully. Make them count." "And Winters?" Jake asked, his voice hard. "Leave him to me," Peter said. "He'll learn that betraying humanity comes with a price." Daniel looked around at the tired faces, seeing determination despite their losses. "We've been hit hard, but we're not beaten. Not as long as we keep fighting back." Peter Walsh stepped off his diplomatic shuttle onto the surface of Teller, a small planet on the edge of Kraxan space. As Earth's ambassador, he could still travel freely, though he knew the Kraxan watched his every move. An alien figure waited for him at the landing pad. The Tellurian stood 7 feet tall, her skin like polished crystal that reflected the dim light of the planet's red sun. "Ambassador Walsh," she said, her voice musical. "I am Elder Kurina. We speak in a secure location." They walked to a small building made of the same crystal-like material as the Tellurian skin. Inside, 3 more Tellurians waited. Their eyes, with star-shaped pupils, watched Peter with interest. "The Kraxan do not know you are here," Kurina said once the door was sealed. "Our security measures block their sensors." Peter nodded. "Thank you for meeting me. Earth needs allies." "The attack on the moon facility was impressive," one of the other Tellurians said. "The Kraxan were disturbed. They killed thousands of our people in revenge," Peter replied. Kurina made a gesture that Peter had learned meant sympathy. "The Kraxan destroyed our homeworld centuries ago. Only those of us who were off-planet survived. Now we live on the edges of their empire, forgotten but watching." "We need more than sympathy," Peter said directly. "We need information, technology, support." The Tellurians looked at each other, communicating in a way Peter couldn't understand. Finally, Kurina spoke. "We will help. The Kraxan grow stronger with each world they conquer. If humans can resist, others may follow." She handed Peter a crystal data storage device. "This contains information about Kraxan fleet movements, shield frequencies, and communication codes. It may help your scientists." Peter took it carefully. "This is more than I hoped for." "There are others who will help," another Tellurian said. "The Troka suffer under Kraxan rule. The Mercian remember freedom. Even some among the Vonari question Kraxan methods. A secret alliance," Peter said, understanding. "Yes, small now, but growing." When Peter returned to Earth, he went directly to the new resistance base, hidden deep in the Amazon rainforest. Lysa, Daniel, and Jake waited for him in the command center. "How did it go?" Lisa asked as Peter entered. In answer, Peter handed her the crystal. "The Tellurians are with us. They've provided Kraxan military data that might help your research." Lisa took the crystal, her eyes widening as she examined it. "This technology is amazing." "There's more," Peter said. "Other species are willing to help us. The Tellurians will connect us." Daniel looked skeptical. "Can we trust them?" "The Kraxan destroy their homeworld," Peter said. "They hate the hegemony more than we do." Jake had been studying a map on the main screen. "With allies, we might actually stand a chance." Lisa inserted the crystal into their system. Information flooded the screens. Ship designs, defense systems, patrol routes. "This is exactly what we needed," she said, her voice excited. "Their ships use a 3-layer shield system. If we time our quantum disruptors to hit each layer in sequence, we could disable their ships without destroying them." Jake finished. "Over the next month, resistance cells reorganized. The betrayal had hurt them badly, but new recruits arrived daily. People angered by the destruction of New Seattle and other Kraxan attacks. Lisa's team, strengthened by the addition of Lynn Weber and other scientists who had escaped the raids, worked day and night to improve their weapons. The Tellurian data proved invaluable. In a secure facility beneath the rainforest, Jake oversaw the construction of small, fast ships designed to carry Lisa's improved quantum weapons. The vessels were built from materials that could evade Kraxan sensors. "We can have 12 ships ready in 2 months," Jake told Daniel during an inspection. "Not enough to challenge their fleet, but enough for hit-and-run attacks." Daniel nodded. "That's all we need for now. Weaken them, show people they can be hurt." Peter, meanwhile, continued his diplomatic work. On the surface, he expressed Earth's official regret for the moon attack. In secret, he built connections with representatives from other subjugated worlds. "The galaxy is watching," he told the Resistance Council. "If we succeed, we won't be fighting alone for long." Lisa looked up from her work on a new prototype. "We won't fail," she said quietly. "Not this time." The sky above Earth filled with Kraxan warships. Over 500 vessels moved into orbit, their dark hulls blocking the sun in many areas. On the ground, people watched with fear as shadows passed over cities. In the Resistance Command Center, buried deep beneath the Amazon rainforest, screens showed the invasion fleet from multiple angles. "They're positioning for a full-scale attack," Daniel said, studying the tactical display. "This is their entire regional fleet." Peter nodded grimly. "Our announcement in the Galactic Council scared them more than we expected. They want to crush us before others join our cause." Jake entered the room, his face tense but determined. "Our ships are ready. All 12 are armed with the quantum disruptors." 12 ships against 500, Allison said quietly. "Those aren't good odds." Lisa stepped forward. "The odds are better than they look. Each of our ships carries multiple disruptors, and we don't need to destroy their fleet. We just need to hold them off." "For how long?" Daniel asked. Peter checked his secure communicator. 3 hours. That's when our allies will arrive." Outside, the first wave of Kraxan ships entered the atmosphere. They targeted military bases first, using energy weapons that turned buildings to ash in seconds. Earth's conventional defenses fired back, but their missiles exploded harmlessly against Kraxan shields. Daniel led the ground forces. Resistance fighters had merged with regular military units after many governments had secretly switched sides. They used the miniaturized quantum disruptors attached to missiles and artillery shells. When they hit, Kraxan ships faltered and sometimes fell. Jake commanded the small human fleet from a hidden base in Antarctica. The 12 ships were barely visible to sensors, using technology developed from the Tellurian data. "Launch all vessels," Jake ordered. "Target the command ships first." The human ships rose from hidden hangars, fast and nimble compared to the larger Kraxan vessels. They darted between enemy ships, firing quantum weapons that disrupted shields and damaged systems. In orbit, Lisa monitored the battle from a heavily protected satellite. "The quantum field is working," she reported. "Their shields are failing faster than they can adapt." But the Kraxan numbers were overwhelming. For every ship damaged by the Resistance, 10 more took its place. 3 human vessels were destroyed in the first hour, their brave pilots lost. "We can't hold much longer," Jake reported, his voice strained. 4 more ships damaged. We're down to 5 operational vessels. On the ground, Daniel's forces were being pushed back. Kraxan troops had landed outside major cities, their armor protecting them from normal weapons. "Where are these allies?" Daniel asked over the secure channel. Peter, watching from the command center, had no answer. The Tellurians had promised help, but so far, Earth fought alone. Then Lisa's voice came through, excited. "Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're not Kraxan designs." On the screens, new vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. Sleek crystal ships from the Tellurians. massive organic-looking cruisers from the Troika, small, incredibly fast fighters from the Mercian. Even some Voneri vessels had joined. "They came," Peter said softly. The Allied ships engaged the Kraxan fleet from behind, catching them by surprise. The battle in orbit shifted as the Kraxan commanders had to split their forces. Lisa watched the tactical displays with growing hope. Then alarms blared on her station. "Kraxan flagship detected targeting this facility," the computer warned. Lisa knew what she had to do. The station contained the prototype for a large-scale quantum disruptor, powerful enough to disable dozens of ships at once. But it wasn't fully tested, and activating it might overload the station's systems. She opened a channel to the command center. "Peter, I'm activating the main disruptor. It should create a quantum field large enough to disable the Kraxan flagship and surrounding vessels." "Lisa, the system isn't stable," Jake argued. "You need to evacuate now." "There's no time," she replied calmly. "This is our chance to turn the tide." Lisa entered the activation codes. The station hummed as power flowed into the main disruptor. Around her, warning lights flashed red. "Quantum field expanding," she reported. "Flagship shields failing." The Kraxan flagship, a massive vessel at the center of their fleet, suddenly went dark as its systems failed. Nearby ships drifted, powerless. "It's working," Daniel shouted from the ground. Then Lisa's station exploded in a flash of blue energy that rippled outward, disabling dozens more Kraxan ships. In the command center, Peter bowed his head. On his screen, where Lisa's station had been, there was only debris. "She knew," he said quietly. "She knew it might happen." Jake's voice came through, determined despite the loss. "The Kraxan fleet is retreating. We need to press the advantage." The battle for Earth continued, but the sacrifice had turned the tide. Humanity was fighting back, and for the first time, they were winning. 6 months after the battle for Earth, Ambassador Peter Walsh once again stood before the Galactic Council. The Grand Chamber looked the same, but everything else had changed. The Kraxan seats were empty. Their empire was falling apart as world after world rose in rebellion. The news of Earth's victory had spread quickly, inspiring others to fight back. Peter looked different too. Gray streaked his hair, and a scar ran down the side of his face from a Kraxan attack during the final days of the war. But he stood tall as he addressed the council. "Distinguished representatives," he began, "I come before you today not as a supplicant, but as the voice of a free Earth." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many counselors shifted uncomfortably, remembering how they had ignored human pleas for help over the years. 6 months ago, the Kraxan hegemony sent their fleet to destroy us. They failed. With courage, new technology, and the help of allies who also suffered under Kraxan rule, we defeated their forces and drove them from our system. The Tellurian representative inclined her crystalline head. The Troika delegate clicked his mandibles in approval. The Mercian ambassador's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, their way of showing respect. Humanity did not fight this war alone, and we do not claim this victory for ourselves alone. We fought for all peoples who desire freedom. Back on Earth, Daniel watched the broadcast from a hospital in the rebuilt city of New Chicago. His left arm was now artificial, a reminder of the ground battle against Kraxan forces. Beside his bed sat Jake, who had lost an eye but gained a fierce reputation as the commander who had outmaneuvered Kraxan admirals. "He's doing well," Jake said, nodding at the screen where Peter continued his address. Daniel smiled. Lisa would be proud. On the screen, Peter was explaining how the collapse of the Kraxan hegemony had left a power vacuum in the galaxy. "We do not seek to replace one empire with another. Earth proposes a new alliance of free worlds, where all species have an equal voice." In the council chamber, the chairperson floated forward. "The council recognizes Earth's victory and Ambassador Walsh's proposal. We will consider Earth's application for a permanent seat on this body." Peter shook his head. "With respect, Chairperson, we are not applying. Earth has earned its place here, paid for with the blood of our people." We will take our seat, and we will use it to ensure no species ever suffers as we did under the Kraxon." Silence fell over the chamber. Such boldness was unprecedented. Then the Tellurian representative stood. "Teller supports Earth's claim and joins this new alliance." "Troca supports Earth," came another voice. "The Mercians stand with humans," added a third. One by one, representatives from 20 worlds rose to support Earth's position. The chairperson, seeing the tie of opinion, bowed in acceptance. "So be it. Earth will have its seat, and we welcome this new alliance to our deliberations." In orbit around Earth, Maria supervised the construction of a memorial to those who had died in the war. A massive structure that would float in space, visible from the ground as a new star. At its heart was a quantum beacon using Lisa's final design, pulsing with blue light that would shine for centuries. On the moon, where the rebellion had begun with that first attack, Jake oversaw the building of a new research center named for Lisa. Scientists from a dozen worlds worked there, studying quantum physics and developing new technologies for peaceful purposes. Daniel, once healed, would lead Earth's new defense forces, smaller than during the war, but ready if needed again. And Peter, when he returned from the Council, would help guide Earth into its new role in the galaxy. Not as conquerors, never as slaves, but as equals who had proven their worth. As Peter finished his address to the Council, he thought of all they had lost and all they had gained. 20 years of oppression had ended. A new chapter was beginning. "We fought back," he told the assembled representatives, "not just for ourselves, but for all who desire freedom. Remember that humanity will always stand against tyranny, wherever it appears in our galaxy. This is our promise to you all." The council chamber filled with applause. A new era had begun.